Hi, and welcome back to the next video in the Manta Ray series. After publishing an asset, the next logical step is to understand how to search for assets in a marketplace. In this video, we'll be explaining the programmatic way using the Squid API. However, we have another way in which you can search for assets. So as a data scientist, you might be interested in this programmatic way. Or as a developer, you might want to understand the underlying libraries. But as a user, you'll want to use a marketplace in a more convenient way. So we have built a reference marketplace at commons.oceanprotocol.com. And this marketplace is open source so that you can quickly get up and running with a great user experience. The Commons Marketplace is already seeded with several open source datasets. You'll also note that I'm currently connected with my MetaMask account and I'm connected into the Nile network. So if you're interested in building a marketplace on Ocean, please reach out to us or check out our open source repositories, and you can actually fork this entire project and use it for your personal marketplace. We'll just type in a query here, and we can see that indeed I do get some results. So let's take a look at this data set, and it's coming from the OpenML project. And we already see that the formatting is in Markdown, and we have some options to actually get the actual assets themselves. So let's get back to the programmatic way. If you are a developer or data scientist and want to understand the lower level API, we can open up this next notebook in the series, S03 Search Assets. We start with the usual introduction, and I'm also writing a little bit more about the underlying concepts of decentralized identifiers and decentralized identifier documents. So again, the marketplace has a component which is serving metadata, and this metadata and this document are resolved from the DID. So the DID is really the core or the main way to identify any type of asset in Ocean Protocol. And there's a lot of further reading that I've linked in here in the notebook directly. We can then go through the typical workflow of instantiating the Ocean API. And then we can start to list registered assets in the Aquarius database that we're connected to. So again, we're connected to a production testnet. So the main way to search using the Squid library, this lower levels Python API, is using the query method in the assets module. We're just going to get started by searching for an empty string. This will return all of the assets. We also have a concept of pagination. If there's a marketplace with thousands or millions of assets, this could be a very expensive operation. So by default, we're limiting the number of results to 100. This search will then return the first 100 assets matching this query. And since this query is an empty string, it matches all assets. We can then inspect this resulting asset that we've just returned. So again, we've resolved from a DID a DDO. The DDO is a representation of the asset in this metadata store. We can then select the last asset in the list and inspect some of the properties of this asset. So we have the DDO which has a decentralized identifier. It has a name, price, description, etc. So that's great for getting a list of all assets, but of course we'd like to be able to search in a more fine-grained way and be able to filter assets. This query method supports several different queries, and these are documented, and you can check the documentation link in the notebook here. So let's just start by filtering on one attribute of an asset, which is the price. We're going to use the price query, and we're going to pass in a list which contains the starting price and the ending price. So this will return all of the assets which have a price inside of this interval. We've executed the query with the ocean.assets.query, and we've found 29 assets. Next, we can then do things like operate on this result. We can, for example, take the average price. We also have some plain text search. We've already seen an example of this with an empty string. Let's try with an actual string, and we'll look for the word weather. So I know that this weather asset is a sample asset, so I know that it does exist in the database, and indeed we found 74 matches, and we found 72 assets with the name weather information 2011, and 2 which have the year 2012. So again, these are just sample assets, but this is a great way to illustrate the concept of this query method. Of course, we can also query with multiple queries. So in this case, we're going to combine the above two query concepts. We're going to search in a price interval of 0 to 11, and we're going to search, as before, anything that matches with the word weather. The result is a subset of the above two searches, and we found 23 assets which have both of these conditions fulfilled. Namely, it has the word weather, and it has a price between 0 and 11. So this is just a quick overview of one important method on the Ocean Python API, which is the query method. We do support full MongoDB queries, and we're coming up with new drivers and new ways to search. So if you're interested in programmatically searching, feel free to check out our documentation and take a look at this notebook. And if you are looking to build a front end, we do have this Commons Marketplace running in a testnet, so you can fork and provide a great user experience for your users as well. So I hope that was a clear and simple start to understanding searching ocean marketplaces. And I'll see you in the next video.